Oh, that was easy. I think now we're going live. I am going to be looking at the camera right there, and hopefully they'll have a good live stream here. This is a new thing. I haven't done this before, but I'm doing a lunchtime live stream. I'm able to come back to our new house over lunch, left work, come back here, do a quick live stream, get back on, go back to work in time for work and the whole bit, and hopefully that'll be a lot of fun. I'm going to do the best I can to give you a follow up on the live stream that we did Saturday. I did a follow up video yesterday showing you the penetration up front with really good camera angles and all that good stuff. Because the webcam, when you do this stuff live, the webcam, you're unable to have that close up. You know, the webcam's not a close up thing. That's a work in progress. I think I'm pretty excited about it though, because I can do those kinds of shoots more often. And with the proper webcams, you can take a greater part in that. I did go through and measure that stuff. I didn't do the math right there on those videos, and I know my intention was to do an addendum to that video. I did not do that, but instead I'm just going to do this live stream because I did the math later on. And I wanted to address one other thing. There were a ton of comments I wanted to go through and talk about too. But I got one from, oh, wow, we got some people on here already. Holy cow, we got a bunch of people on here already. I don't do these on the phone very often. I usually got the laptop, but this is going to work pretty good, I think. The picture quality probably is better on this phone than it would be on those little webcams on the laptop, if I had to guess. Hello to Travis, hello to Chris, and hello to James. Good to hear from you guys. I did get a comment about Crossbow Appreciation Month and how the topics seem to be redundant and repetitive. And it was from a longtime friend of Bunjie, somebody whose commentary I greatly appreciate. And I get it. I get that. I really do. Crossbow Appreciation Month is an opportunity for me to go through and do a lot of videos about, and some of them are repeating the same topics, but it's a lot of videos. It's 31 videos in 31 days. That's quite a bit of stuff, right? That's quite a bit of videos. I could do separate video topics every day because I certainly have enough topics to make that work. But by the same token, what I would prefer to do and what I'm going to do, what I typically do is we go into greater detail on these different topics. And that's the reason that I'm doing this. So that live stream went incredibly well. Go watch that live stream if you haven't seen it already. I think that thing was awesome. I had a great time. My daughter really, really impressed me with her overall performance. I could not be happier with the shooting. We went back and watched that again when we got home. Had a good time. So I hope you'll check it out if you haven't seen it already. It was a really good live stream. And I just want to go through with you. I've gone through the comments because I watched that live stream, got the comments, and I'm going to go through some of those comments on here. But I'm also going to talk to you. I want to give you the numbers. First, I made a list of things I'm going to talk about. I don't want to miss, right? I know there's all these great different comments that we get and all that kind of stuff. So one of the comments just now was, what kind of cross gun do I use? Now, I could complain, right, and say, well, cross gun, you know, and I could feel bad about that, like that person posting that is intending, probably. But you know me. I am not going to apologize for using a crossbow. I love crossbows. So that's just the way it is. My crossbow, Bunjie, is a 2010 Excalibur Axiom. It is a premier weapon, a recurve crossbow that yesterday, you'll see in a few minutes here, got penetration equal to that, or very close to equal to that, of a more modern crossbow. Ooh, that's pretty good. That's a little spoiler for the rest of our video. So there you go. I'll go through these comments too later on too, so we'll look at that stuff too. But I do want to go through this. First thing, quartering away. That's the first thing on my list. Quartering away. Wrote it right there in my sloppy handwriting. And the reason it says that is I was making a point about heavy arrow shooters, some of whom the current thinking is that there seems to be this trend that I can shoot a heavy arrow, heavy front of center with a lot of penetration and a perfect indestructible broadhead, and therefore I can shoot end to end on a deer, not side to side. I don't need to take quartering away shots. And in commenting on that, that's something I'll do more topics down the road. I'll do a more discussion on that down the road, and I welcome your input on those topics. That, to me, is a dangerous way of thinking. It is anti-archery, really. It's not really an archery concept. It's more of a rifle hunting concept. So I just would stay away from that. I would prefer to take those quartering away shots. And I misspoke in the live stream very emphatically. I said that one of our heavy arrow experts here on Death by Bunjie, one of the friends of Bunjie, who has participated greatly and given me arrows, right? Given me heavy arrows. I'm going to show you here in just a second. That he would prefer those quartering two shots. I misspoke. He would still, despite his heavy arrow, prefer a close quartering away shot. So I emphatically correct what I so emphatically misstated. Doing live stuff, if I caught that in a video, I'd reshoot that part, right, in one of the normal videos I do. But I want to, if you go back and watch that live stream, there's your corrected answer, okay, the corrected statement. Important thing. Okay, we're going to go through the arrows here real quick, and the important thing is not how much of the arrow was sticking out, but how much of the arrow penetrated. And I did write down the numbers. Now, the numbers on the wild boar, you'll remember from that target, had 9 3/16 sticking out, and that means that was about 7 5/8 inches of penetration in that boar target from Genevieve's crossbow, from Bunjie Jr. My crossbow was shooting, had 12 1/4 inches sticking out, but that's not the important thing. A lot more sticking out, but it's a 20-inch arrow, and that was 7 3/4 inches penetration. So I actually got more penetration with old Bunjie, a 305 feet per second on a good day crossbow. More penetration with a 20-inch arrow, weighing 500 and something with the field point and all that, but shooting around 540, 550 grains with that arrow, I got more penetration than Genevieve's more stock setup with 150 grain field points and a 16.5-inch arrow. She ended up with 7 5/8. Both of those are great numbers. Nothing about this should suggest to you that you need to get rid of your arrows, throw them away, and go get heavy arrows. But it should only suggest to you, as it did to me, that you ought to consider it. Think about it. Learn more about it, right? Keep that as a possibility, maybe just in the back of your mind for next year. Doesn't have to be this year, but be thinking about that. So I think, and that's where we're going with this. You will see more repeated topics on this because heavy arrows is a very big topic these days, not just for crossbow hunters, but for archers in general. And I think that it applies more. It's more important to some folks than it is to others. I want to talk real quick about the arrows because I brought them over here and I want to show you the arrows we were using yesterday. First of all, I'll show you Genevieve's quills. Remember, we were talking about that. She uses the quills, and we still got a little bit of dirt on one of these where I threw it in the dirt. But there's a 150 grain field point on her quill here. But this is a ProFlight arrow, and I got this question, I got this comment, this question before about whether they were the same thing. They are, in fact, both made courtesy of Excalibur. Now, this is a Black Eagle. The ProFlights are actually made by Black Eagle. Totally reputable company. These are the more refined arrows, however. They're .001 straightness. These are guaranteed to weigh more in the same ballpark than the standard stock quills that come with these crossbows or that you would get that are cheaper. They are also straighter, or guaranteed to be more straight. And I can tell you, and I've commented on this, at 30 yards, we haven't noticed any difference. Now you start stretching out to 40, 50, 60 yards, as we've done in the yard, you'll notice a difference between these arrows. These should fly a little bit better. Now, these aren't a heavier arrow. Nothing has been added to them to increase the front of center other than the 150 grain field point. She will be using 150 grain broadheads, which we will reveal in a future video. But these are 16.5-inch arrows, same as the stock quills. The only difference is also that these have a lighted knock, the Illuminox on them. I like the lighted knocks. I just think they're cool. They help see the arrow in flight when you are shooting on a video. They help you find the arrow later on, the whole bit. They're just a great tool to have. Now, the arrows that I've used in the past that you've seen on Death by Bunjie are Firebolts, and I used the non-illuminated version of these cheaper arrows in the past as well, and I've killed a ton of deer with these. Now, these are made by Easton. Easton makes the arrows for Excalibur, these have been totally performed well for me. Okay, and again, I want to stress that this heavy arrow stuff is really more for consideration. Get that word out there, that discussion out there. Offer it as a possible solution to problems you may be experiencing. This might have something to do with making your crossbow quieter, letting it live longer, right? It might have something to do with getting more penetration if those are issues. If they're not issues you're concerned about, then this topic, this conversation will have less importance to you. But that's okay. That's okay. That's why we have multiple video topics here on Death by Bunjie. As long as they're all about crossbows, that's good enough, right? The ones that you saw me shooting in that live stream are these bad boys right here. I want to show you these. Now, these are a whole different animal. These arrows were gifts. They're expensive and appreciated, the whole bit. Spinal taps is what they are. That's what you saw me shooting through Bunjie. These are spine index. That means you got to keep the black thing in the flight groove, right? The black vein goes into, or excuse me, the white vein goes into flight groove because the black veins are the non-indexed one. These would be your hen feathers, and this would be your cock feathers, so to speak, right? So that's what we do. These have a lighted knock installed. 150, I'm using 100 grain field point on these right now, but these are weighted, and I've showed that in previous videos. These are weighted, and you'll see the front of center on these is they're quite front of center friendly. So 20-inch arrow, still a 20-inch arrow, same as the Firebolt that I've used in the past. You have not seen me shooting these recently, but you will in a video because I'm doing I think we did a sound comparison video that'll be coming up here soon. So you'll be seeing that as well. Next week, we're really going to go heavy on the, this weekend is the meet and greet. I've got videos planned for the whole week here. Next week, we're going to be talking more about arrows, right? So I hope you're pretty excited about that. And hopefully I'll have some video of me shooting arrows such as these. In fact, maybe even this exact arrow at a bore. And we'll see how that goes, what kind of penetration I get. And we'll compare that to last year's penetration, right? So I talk about these arrows in the context of, and I'll repeat this a lot, but I think it bears repeating. I think it's an important observation that the talk for heavy arrows for me is in part intended, in part it's exploration on my part to share information with you guys, with the friends of Bunjie who want to learn more about crossbows and crossbow hunting. For me to do that, obviously, I need to know a lot about crossbows and crossbow hunting in order to be able to share that stuff. So exploring heavy arrows is very important to that end. But it's also intended, and I think that this is the way we should look at heavy arrows as crossbow hunters, be thinking about what problems you need to solve. If you're killing everything and getting pass-throughs and everything is holding steady and you're pretty happy, you may not need heavier arrows. But on the other hand, there's a lot that heavier arrows can offer. Penetration, again. So Genevieve on the bore target, she had 7 5/8 inches of penetration, and I had 7 3/4 inches penetration. By my math, and I got slightly more penetration with that one. On the deer target, now the deer target is that old style target, remember that. She ended up with, at 20 yards, that was a 10-yard shot on the boar. On the deer target at 20 yards, she ended up with, it was just under 20 yards, she ended up with 8 5/16 inches of penetration. I had 7 3/8 inch penetration. Okay, a couple observations on these two, and I'm not trying to put an asterisk next to mine, but I do want you to be aware of a couple things. Both of those targets had a post in the ground holding them up on the front leg, the boar target and the deer. I actually had posts, the rebar that you drive in the ground. I had that for the deer target and the javelina target years ago. I don't know whatever happened to them. I lost them in the moves or something. I don't know. So I ended up taking one of the posts from the boar target that we received as a gift from Marshall Robinson. And Genevieve, you should have seen how excited she was about that. He gave her a present based primarily on the fact that we're going boar hunting and he wanted her to succeed. That's kind of the way I read it. So we got this boar in the mail, and she's like, "Oh, this is so perfect. We'll be able to shoot at it and before the meet and greet, before we go boar hunting together. This is Genevieve's first hunt. Can you believe that?" She's excited about that, and wow, boom, she's hooked. You know what I mean? Now she's shooting at this boar target. So it's yet another thing that has really gotten her excited about this upcoming weekend. I just want to throw that out there. But I only had the 2 pieces of rebar that came with that target to use for both of those 3D targets. I split them up, and I put one in the front leg of the boar because we're shooting at the front leg-ish. You know, that's where the foam is. And I did the same thing with the deer, and it held them up just fine. But because of that, if you want to think of it this way, when you hit above the post, there's less resistance, and that you're getting a little bit more penetration. I was shooting back because I don't want to hit her arrow. So I was shooting back, as I mentioned on that live stream, and I'm hitting where there's no post, and I think there's a little more give on my end of the impact than there would be on hers. That might slightly account for a difference in penetration. The other observation is that on Genevieve's shot, or on the deer rather, I penetrated through the foam and into the deer itself. So there's that slowing down my arrow perhaps. The other thing is Genevieve's crossbow shoots 350 feet per second. And my crossbow shoots 277 today. Can you believe that? So we're down to 277 feet per second. So regardless of those little asterisks, right, as what accounts for these different numbers, regardless of that, a very important observation is here that I got pretty close to the penetration with old Bunjie, a 10 going on 11-year-old crossbow, a crossbow that will celebrate its 10th birthday at the upcoming meet and greet. Can you believe that? I'll be hunting with it now going on the 11th season. And I'm getting basically the same penetration. Now, another observation though, and this is where speed comes in. She's a lot faster. She's flatter. She's going to hit the target sooner than I do. I did get a comment from someone listening. You can hear my arrow go, and you can hear a definite delay on a 20-yard target from what hers is. She's hitting the target at 20 yards in the time it takes me to hit a target at 15 yards. And if you extend that out to 30 yards, it's going to be even more exaggerated. So that is something that I need to take into account. And again, this is just a conversation going forward. I'm not giving you answers in this live stream. That is for sure. I'm just telling you where my mind is at. Because I saw a comment. Someone had asked me if I was going to keep Bunjie or upgrade Bunjie. And this year I'm hunting with Bunjie. That's just the way it is. Because this is a year of experimentation for me. There's a lot going on. If you read my book, right, and I'm going to plug the book again, that's the way it is. But if you read the book, it brings you up to speed on a lot that's going on with Rich Wilson, Death by Bunjie, the Kingdom of Bunjie, and all that. There's information in there that I can't possibly share in video after video after video. I can give you tidbits of it, but if you want the full story, you read the book. So what you do is you get that sort of conversation going where you'll fully understand the conversation if you read the book. So by doing that, you'll see why this year is not really a year for me to shop with crossbows. I'm retooling a little bit. I'm not going to go buy a new crossbow this year. I got enough other stuff going on. Arrows, I talked about which arrows we did. I want to point out too, Genevieve's using a 150 grain field point, and I was using a 100 grain field point. Currently, I intend to hunt with 100 grain broadheads. You probably know what they are. So there's that. There is, however, still up in the air Genevieve's selection of broadheads, and we've picked it out. We have to test them, but I'm pretty sure we're going to test them this week. We've got a couple of different nights where we're going to shoot them briefly, but I don't think that's going to be any kind of a problem. But I will share that with you in an upcoming video, and you'll get to see what Genevieve uses. And then, of course, after the meet and greet, you're going to get a chance to see the successes or failures that we had. So that'll be pretty exciting too. Target designed to stop, but I can't read my own handwriting. Target designed to stop, but tell the next story. Oh, last observation about this, the depth of penetration and all that stuff. The last observation that I have for you on that. Targets are designed to stop. So they're really not a great version of, they're good for comparison because it's two crossbows shooting the same distance at the same target. So that's important. They aren't really this, you can't extrapolate that necessarily on what's going to be like hitting an animal, because animals have bone that's brittle, animals have bone that can be easily cut through, animals have thicker hides and thinner hides and all that good stuff. So ton of different considerations there, right? So it's not exactly the same thing. It's just nice to be able to compare the two weapons, the two crossbows. Real quick, I will go through here. Boy, we've been on here for almost 20 minutes. We got 50 people listening to this. And over lunch, I'm sharing lunch with 50 people. How cool is that? I think that's awesome. Thank you guys for getting on here. I really do appreciate it. I wrote down a bunch of comments because I did go through. I watched the live stream and I wrote down the comments so that I could get them in real time, and then I could sort of address them here as well. And this will be my last follow-up on the live stream. You'll still hear me talk about it, but it's probably the last follow-up I will do on here. And then I'll go through tonight and I'll read these comments as well. And I'll address them in future videos, but I won't bore you with any more follow-up on our live stream videos. But I think that this stuff's pretty cool. Okay, why was there no 40-yard shot in our live stream? That's a very good question. I appreciate the 40-yard shot as much as the next guy. I appreciate 50 and even 60-yard shots. As I indicated in this live stream that we did, this one of the reasons I bought this house, because I can easily get a 60-yard shot in this yard safely, not pointing toward other houses or anything. In fact, there's no way for you to point at a house sitting out behind this one. So, at least not realistically with a crossbow, let's put it that way. So I can shoot from here safely down over that yard, as you saw in that live stream. That works out good. The reason I didn't set up 40-yard shots or beyond for the purposes of the live stream was you wouldn't be able to see them on a webcam, first and foremost. I knew that those webcams are low resolution, live streams are low resolution. I'm working on that. I got a couple ideas. I actually did a little research, and I probably down the road will extend the range for those live streams. And maybe we'll do a live stream that's just long distance shooting. I don't know. But we'll have to see how I can make it out. I got to get a wireless webcam or something along those lines in order to make that happen. I appreciated that people laughed when they said they wanted to see Rich use the climber. And I especially appreciated my daughter's reaction. Someone pointed that out. They especially wanted to see me use a climber after seeing Genevieve's reaction. You will see a brief glimpse of that in an upcoming Crossbow Appreciation Month video this week. How's that? So try not to laugh. That's all I got to say about that. Someone had asked me if I was going to put a food bot in the backyard. I got to tell you, the nicest buck that I have on cameras this year is not on any property that I'm going to be hunting. It's in this backyard. Can you believe that? It comes up off the river. Really nice buck in velvet. I'm sure there's a million hunters in the cornfields down beyond here that will love to chase that deer, and I wish them luck. I won't have any shots. I'm not going to put a blind in the backyard, although I thought about it after seeing that picture. But that's actually the only buck that I have on pictures this year, if you can believe that. More on that down the road. In fact, I'm doing a video on that this week that comes out, another video showing some summertime bucks from years past, some really nice pictures, but you'll get the whole story there in that video. We'll talk about it then. Question from, I talked about that, about the quartering away versus quartering to. I got a lot of really positive feedback on that live stream, and I do appreciate it. A lot of people are saying they're encouraging Genevieve, saying she did a good job, and I really appreciate that, and I agree with you. Lox Bog, I want to thank him because she said she was the show. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Lox Bog and I go way back. We've been talking for a long time here on the YouTubes, and I appreciate that he is now welcoming my daughter into the Death by Bunjie fold. I appreciate that. Genevieve's broadheads with questions on that. I am going to talk about that too. Andreas Loomers asked if you could leave the crank system on, and I don't think that's necessarily recommended. As long as you take the hooks off the string, reseat it, do all that stuff, you certainly could. I would not, if I'm at a tree stand, I wouldn't do that. Maybe in your yard shooting, it'd be convenient to keep it on there and shoot and all that sort of thing. You can, but it's not advisable. At least it's not my preference, that's for sure. I want to thank a few people. Another observation. I got some super chats there, and I do appreciate that. You guys that support Death by Bunjie in one way or another, I really appreciate your support. I wouldn't be doing this on my lunchtime. There would not be a Crossbow Appreciation Month if it weren't for Friends of Bunjie. That's the only reason I do this stuff, is because I get people that get on here and want to talk about crossbows, and I appreciate that. I really do. So I appreciate the super chats. That helps me buy my Dunkin' Donuts iced coffee, as you know. I would also tell you, we had people from Canada. I also had people from Germany and Belgium on that super chat. So we have an international audience, which blows my mind. And lastly, there was a comment saying, book page 180. And I think he was telling me that he was on a story in the book, reading my book, and he was at page 180. And I want to respond to that. Two things about the book. One was, that's a neat story. Page 180 has a neat story in it. And there's some observations in there you would not get from Death by Bunjie videos. But also, the fact that he was on page 180, that's awesome. He's reading the book. The other thing I'll point out is the book will be available on Kindle down the road here. It won't be too long. I'll have that done. So there you go. That's not too bad, right? That's a pretty good list of feedback there. I went through that whole list, told you the information on the arrows, and told you and showed you. How cool is that? And I got a little bit of graphic examples. Look at this. We'll pan on it. Here's the Bunjie arrows, 20 inches. Here's the pro flights that Genevieve will be hunting with. And look at this. We'll even pan on them in a live video. But that's the different arrows that we use. We got a chance to talk about that. And the heavier arrow on Bunjie allows it to achieve penetration comparable to that of these high-end pro flight arrows on a much faster, newer crossbow. So that is pretty cool stuff. I think that's pretty cool. So what I'm going to do is very carefully and hopefully not ruin this thing. Boom. All right, so what we're going to do, I'm going to do that, and maybe I can do this without wrecking the whole phone here. And I don't know. Oh, I can scroll through it. How cool is that? So I will lock this down so it's not moving all over the place. We're going to lock that real quick. Great to have you guys on here. Hello from Maine. Hello to Georgia. That's awesome. Murder Incorporated's on here. Good to see you, Murder Incorporated hunting. That's great. People did catch some of my jokes. That's good too. And I went through, if you watch that live stream again, I went through an index that I put chapters on it. So you can see each of Genevieve's shots. You can click right on it, go to that shot. But some of the chapters are called, I referenced them as dad jokes. This is a section of dad jokes. So if you want to just go watch the dad jokes, you can do that. Bill Russell says I'm all fancied up. There you go. I hear that. That's pretty funny. Adam, am I the only one who reads your book with your voice instead of mine? I don't know. That's pretty funny though. Someone did comment that they every time they read the word Bunjie, they hear the Bunjie, that whole thing. Adam, you also need to get a hold of me and let me know your address because I got a present coming for you for winning one of our live stream giveaways. I thought that was pretty cool, but I certainly want to make sure you share that. So Adam, if you're still on here, please get a hold of me. YouTube, whatever. You figure it out. Or you can go to the deathbybungie.com and you can contact me on there, Adam. Okay, my webpage is on there and you should be able to get a hold of it. Chris Robinson says, nope, Adam. In other words, yes, and so does Bill Russell. A few people are apparently hearing my voice when they read the book. Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear it. I am glad to hear it. Robert Peck has joined us. Hello, sir. Good to hear from you. Chris Robinson, my new bow is rated 308 feet per second. I need heavy. That's certainly something to look at. Keep in mind, I've rarely hunted at 300 feet per second with my crossbow, and pass-throughs have never been a problem for me as a general rule. It had a lot more to do with broadhead selection. I'm going to talk about that following this week. I just want to make sure that we get a chance to go through our meet and greet, that I get a chance to use the broadheads I've selected along with these new arrows and see where we're at before I give you my final thoughts on that, right? We got people shooting Barnett here. Can't beat that. Try using arrow lube on the bolts. They may pull out easier. One of the videos coming out this week does have an instance where we were shooting at an older target with the arrow lube and on the arrows. I put it right on the arrows and it didn't really make much difference, but that target, maybe it made some difference because I eventually got the arrows out. But that was what has made a lot more difference was getting a newer, more quality target, thanks to Marshall for sending that to us. That's fantastic because that's what really made a big difference for us in terms of getting the arrows out. That made a bigger difference than the lube did, at least in my experience. But again, we're comparing apples to oranges with the new targets. That Reinhardt, it pulls right out. Does fletching length really matter for crossbow arrows? Everything matters to some extent. My short answer would be play around with that. It depends on the FOC of your arrow. It depends on the broadhead you're using, that sort of thing. Number of different factors. Does it make that much difference? Apparently not, because these are all short. If you look at my old ones, right? These are the originals, and I, for years, stuck with these, and I didn't have any trouble. Penetration problems most recently, but that's not due to the length of the fletchings. It had more to do with the weight of the arrow, I think. Well, actually, more to do with the broadhead selection. But these shorter fletchings, look at the difference. Now, one of the things you'll find, and I don't know that there's much difference in terms of, these ones are taller, okay? These are a taller, right here. Those blazers are taller, but they aren't longer, that's for sure. They're shorter by a long shot. And so that makes a difference. So fletchings do affect the arrow flighter. We wouldn't even need to have fletchings on there. But I think that it depends on what you're going for. It depends on what you're faced with and a lot of other factors as well. Old saying, not broke, don't fix it. James, I agree with you 100%. I've said that more than once on here. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. For me, changing from the stuff that I've been using that's tried, true, and tested requires me to be confronted with a new problem. And if I don't have a problem, then I'm not going to do it. And I'm also going to flip this phone over next time. If we do this again, the camera's going to be up there and I'm going to be scrolling with my right hand. How's that? Got to work out the kinks in this stuff, apparently. I put Nap Quick Fletcher blazers on there. I like NAP. They're a good company. Put out a lot of good stuff. Chris Robinson, get the rangefinder. I agree. A good rangefinder is a very important tool. There's no question about that. No question about that. Hello to Texas. We got all kinds of people on here. This is fantastic. We've got Ohio represented. That is great to hear from you. And I hope the other people get a chance to join on here and maybe watch this later on. Vein profile is most important, Chris Robinson says, just my opinion. And I don't know that I disagree with that. These things, like I said, of course, these are front loaded. There's a lot of weight up here. So these just try not to ruin it with the vein selection. When you've got an arrow that's this heavy, you just want to try not to ruin it. But I don't know. But certainly, you'll find out when you start shooting them. I think you start looking at that stuff and you'll find out. I'm going to get ready to get back to work because we've been on here for half an hour. That's a perfect live stream for lunch, a perfect lunch live stream. This is your Crossbow Appreciation Month video for today. I thank you guys. We got even more people on here now. I thank you guys for joining me for this. I'm going to head back to the office, put in my afternoon, and I'm all reinvigorated, ready to go in there and put in a good extra half day's work here to make sure we get the day caught up and to put the rest of the court proceedings to bed for today. And that's why I'm all dressed up today. But I really do appreciate it. Actually, the first time I've thrown one of these together on short notice like this. But I went through those comments. I wanted to comment on all that stuff because there were such good comments. And I hope I got your questions and concerns allayed or addressed. So I do like these old fire bowls. So they're pretty cool. More coming. Got a week's worth of videos all planned up this Friday. Genevieve and I are going to be packing the car and get ready for the old meet and greet. We're going over there and shoot some boars this weekend. So please tune on. Saturday, the videos, there's going to be a ton of videos Saturday. I'm just going to live stream on and off throughout the day. I planned on doing that last year. I never got a chance to. But this year, with this new fancy phone, should be able to pull that off. Hopefully I can live stream on and off and share the meet and greet with you virtually. How cool is that? So until tomorrow's video, until then, all hail Bunjie. Thanks, you guys. I really do appreciate you joining me. This was a lot of fun. A lot of fun.